When we think about environmentalism, our minds often jump to modern movements, recycling bins, and climate change protests. But what if I told you that in India, a profound respect for the earth has been woven into the cultural and spiritual fabric for thousands of years? Long before the first Earth Day, ancient traditions were already teaching us how to live lightly on this planet. One of the most powerful examples of this comes from a tradition you may have heard of, but perhaps don't know much about: Jainism. Paired with the broader Indian concept of Dharma, or righteous living, Jainism offers a timeless blueprint for environmental ethics. So, let us journey back in time to explore how these ancient ideas can provide solutions for our very modern environmental crisis. Scholars who study Indian spiritual traditions have noticed a fascinating pattern. They see two main paths, two distinct models of environmental awareness that have guided people for centuries. Think of them as two different rivers flowing toward the same ocean of ecological harmony. The first is what we can call the devotional model. This path is typically followed by householders, people living in society, raising families, and running businesses. For them, caring for the world is an act of worship. It's about showing reverence for nature through rituals, celebrating the sanctity of rivers, mountains, and trees, and seeing the divine in all of creation. This model isn't about giving things up. It's about honoring and restoring the world around you through acts of love and devotion. You can see this in the worship of sacred groves or the reverence for the Ganges River in Hinduism. It's a path of connection and care. The second path is quite different. It's the ascetic model, and this is the path of the renouncer. These are individuals who step away from conventional society to pursue spiritual liberation. Their approach to environmentalism is rooted in austerity, self-restraint, and a radical commitment to nonviolence. Instead of adding acts of worship, they focus on subtracting, reducing their impact, minimizing their needs, and eliminating harm to any living being, no matter how small. This path is about discipline and detachment, and this is where Jainism shines. The entire philosophy of Jainism is deeply, profoundly aligned with this ascetic model. It is perhaps the most powerful expression of this path in the world. To understand Jain ethics, you have to look at their ultimate role models. These are the great spiritual teachers who have attained enlightenment and shown the path to others. The most recent and well-known Tirthankara is Mahavira, who lived around the same time as the Buddha. What did Mahavira do? He renounced everything. He gave up his princely status, his home, his wealth, and all his possessions. He practiced extreme self-discipline and austerity to purify his soul and achieve liberation. This ideal of total renunciation is the absolute pinnacle of the Jain spiritual path. It's the North Star that guides every follower of Jainism, and its influence on their ethics is immense, shaping the lives of not just monks and nuns, but lay people as well. This focus on renunciation creates an interesting contrast with other Indian traditions, like mainstream Hinduism. For many Hindus, spiritual fulfillment can be found within the context of household life, through devotion, duty, and righteous living. The householder path is seen as a complete and valid way to achieve spiritual goals. But in Jainism, while the householder life is respected, it's always seen as a stepping stone. The highest and most revered goal is still renunciation. This fundamental difference has a huge impact on daily life. It means that even Jain lay people, the householders, tend to live far more restrained and minimalist lives compared to their peers in other communities. Their entire ethical framework is built around limiting consumption and, most importantly, avoiding harm to any and all living beings. This principle is called ahimsa, or nonviolence, and in Jainism, it's taken to its absolute extreme. It's not just about not hurting humans or large animals. It extends to the smallest insects, to plants, and even to microscopic organisms in the air and water. This is why you might see devout Jains wearing masks over their mouths, not for a pandemic, but to avoid accidentally inhaling and harming tiny airborne beings. It's why they might sweep the path before them as they walk, to gently move any insects out of the way. This deep-seated commitment to ahimsa naturally leads to a lifestyle with a very small environmental footprint. It dictates what they eat, a strict vegetarian or vegan diet, what they wear, and how they conduct their business, always striving to minimize harm. So we have these two models: the devotional, which seeks to protect the environment through acts of love and worship, and the ascetic, which does so through restraint and nonviolence. Both paths though different in their approach, can be powerful forces for environmental protection. The devotional model inspires us to restore and honor nature, to see the world not as a resource to be exploited, but as a sacred entity to be cherished. It encourages us to plant trees, clean rivers, and protect wildlife, because we see the divine in them. It fosters a relationship of reciprocity and care. On the other hand, the ascetic model, so beautifully exemplified by Jain, directly confronts the root causes of our modern environmental crises: overconsumption and greed. In a world that constantly tells us to want more, buy more, and be more, the Jain ideal offers a radical counter. It teaches that true happiness and spiritual progress come not from accumulating possessions, but from reducing our desires. It is a powerful lesson that directly echoes Gandhi's famous words, which were themselves deeply influenced by Jain thought. The world has enough for everyone's need, but not enough for everyone's greed. This ascetic ideal forces us to ask ourselves, how much is truly enough? And what is so remarkable is that this entire framework for ecological living exists without ever using the modern word, environmentalism. The Jains were trying to save the planet in the way we think of it today. Their primary goal was spiritual purification and liberation of the individual soul. The environmental benefits were a natural, inevitable consequence of their ethical and spiritual practices. For them, living in harmony with nature wasn't a separate, optional activity. It was the very definition of living a righteous life, of following their Dharma. This shows us that a profound environmental ethic doesn't have to be a political ideology. It can be a deeply personal, spiritual journey. As we conclude this first part of our exploration, we've laid the foundation. We've seen how ancient Indian thought provides two distinct yet complementary paths to ecological consciousness. We've seen how Jainism, with its powerful ascetic ideal, offers a timeless and potent remedy for the consumerism that drives so much environmental destruction. It's a philosophy that challenges us to look inward, to control our desires, and to live with awareness and compassion for all life. In our next video, we'll dive even deeper into the specific principles of Jainism, like ahimsa, and see exactly how they translate into a practical, everyday environmental ethic. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me for part 2. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss it.